Hi, this is Katana from Paint Hawaii, and I'm here in my art studio in Kailua Kona. We're going to take a little journey to Waimanu today, and because the Muliwai Trail is closed and you cannot get camping permits, I haven't been on my favorite hike on this island in what to me feels like a really long time. I did it this year, so I'll survive. You know, we're just making some sacrifices because COVID and the pandemic. So some of us don't get to see our family. Some of us don't get to see our favorite hikes. Some of us are seriously ill, and that's why we're doing that. So let's take a journey to Waimanu. I've got a canvas. This is a fairly inexpensive canvas, and you can use like a wooden panel if you wanted. Do I have an example of that handy? Yeah, this is a wooden panel. Let's look at that. Wooden panel, you could do it on something like that. Or on a cardboard if you're just practicing, you know, it's all about brush time. Anytime you're painting, you're actually learning whether or not it feels like it. So you don't have to be good to paint, you just have to be putting paint on a canvas, and then you get progress. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, this is better than the first one I did. Or I'm having fun and I'm relaxing and it's good. That's all we need. Primary colors, red, yellow, blue, white, black. That's everything I use for this painting. If you have like your own tubes of green, like if you want to use sap green or hooker's green or like phthalo green, any of those greens, you can find a place for them in this painting. I like to keep things simple when I'm teaching. Get really familiar with the primary colors. And then the brushes I have this bright Scholastic Wonder White brush, small one. This is a bright brush. This is from Handmade Modern. I got it at Target. This also is one of the Handmade Modern paint brushes. I don't know if it's from the watercolor set or the acrylic set. Those sets are the same. They have a slightly different variety of brushes, but the bristles and the handles are essentially the same. The watercolor pack, acrylic pack, it's fine. I like nylon bristles, and that's why I choose the brushes that I do. So let's see, let's get started. We're gonna start from the back, we're gonna work our way to the front, and then we're gonna do all this foliage. So let's start with the blue up here. I'm gonna get my paintbrush wet and get some water on here. Put a little bit of blue at the top. And then I'm going to start adding white and blending it horizontally this way. The reason I'm starting with blue and then going to white is because of atmospheric perspective. The Earth, our little blue dot that we call home, is as a really blue atmosphere. So all of those, the more atmosphere you have in between you and that other stuff, it makes it blue. And near the horizon, it's white. There's probably more science words that I could use to explain that, but I think that's all we need for our purposes today. And if you think it's interesting, that's what YouTube is for, is learning more stuff like what we're doing right now. Also near the horizon in this painting, I have a couple of purple clouds. And purple is red, white, and blue. So I'm just gonna take a little bit of red, a little bit of blue, a little bit of white. See, like this. And you can mix it on your plate. Let's do that first. If you're nervous, mix it on your plate. Make sure you like the color. It doesn't have to be a perfectly solid color. See how here it's a little more blue, here it's a little more red. They're both purple, red, white, and blue, which is the proportions of the red and blue have changed. So let's see what this gives us. I'm just twirling my brush along the horizon line. And I'm gonna fluff that up. And this is where I think, oh, you know, it's kind of more blue than red. So let's add some pink. Just put those clouds in. I'm putting them all the way across. Some of these are gonna disappear behind the cliff. And then now that I got my colors in, I'm just gonna fluff these clouds up. So I made my little scribbles, and now I'm gonna fluff them up using the wide part of my brush, lifting the paint and pulling it into the sky and kind of flicking it. See how soft that looks? Yeah, I'm gonna rinse my brush there. And then do the horizon line, which is blue. So I'm just gonna be making a straight line. And so if I load up my brush like this, see how the bristles are together? I'm just gonna wipe it back and forth like this. There we go. So now that paint's really in those bristles after dropping my canvas on the floor. And I'm just gonna draw a nice line all the way over here. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight. We're not cutting in corners today. This is just a horizon line. Blue, blue, blue. And then a little bit of yellow. Oh, that's so green. Let's add more blue. And see how the cliff comes down here and then around here. So I'm just trying to color in this area. So I'm coming down at an angle here. The ocean's looking pretty dark. That's fine. I'm just gonna add in a scoop of white. There we go. I like to put on my paint in like the amount I'm probably gonna need and then spread it and blend it and keep it like wet and full of movement. My art teacher, Rosa Derrick, calls me Speedy Gonzalez and would very much like me to slow down, and I will one day. It really depends on what you're doing with your painting. If you're painting Hawaii, this speed is about right. So I'm doing this because I want all the paint to get into the crevices of the canvas. So I'm just working the paint in there, getting those colors that I like. Now on this Waimanu painting, I did have a separate teal color. So the teal on that painting is going to be a little different than the teal I can get with my primary colors. Sometimes it's nice to get teal direct from the tube teal and not mixed teal, because teal is such a bright saturated color. And when you mix colors together, you do lose a little bit of that saturation. So teal is really nice to actually get right out of the tube. There we go. Now I've got all these horizontal lines. I wanna call that pretty much done. I think my cliff's gonna go right here and my beach is gonna curve around here. So there we go, there's our water. Let's rinse that out. And then let's go to the small square brush. I'm going to mix a light orange color for this cliffside, the cliffs of Waimanu. It doesn't have to be a perfect match for Waimanu. Nobody is taking your painting to Waimanu, holding it up next to Waimanu and going, oh no, it's a little more steep. Nobody's doing that. This is for you to look at, feel happy, and not worry too much. I'm very tired of worrying. I'm so good at worrying, and I'm over it. So we're just gonna paint and be happy. A little bit of black into this. There we go. Now it's too black, so I'm gonna add more yellow. Now it just looks like dark yellow, so I'm gonna add a little red, and there's my brown. So let's see, here's the cliffside, 45-degree angle like this. I'm gonna make it a little bit thicker. Oops, that's too much white. I wanted my brown to be a little lighter, so I added some white, and then there was too much. That's okay, you just paint over it. There we go. And then I'll do some little lines over here, and then one that comes out like this. So we got the cliff face here. And then I didn't let my blue dry, so it's picking up some blue. So I'm gonna put some more paint on top of it. I should let it dry, but I want you guys to not be waiting for paint to dry on my behalf. Wait for your own paint to dry. There we go, there's some cliffside. And then let's take some green, yellow and blue, make green. So that's here, yellow and blue. And I'm gonna add a little bit of white. Yellow and blue and white. And I'm gonna get that light green, and my cliffside's gonna go up a little bit. It's gonna smile inwards, and then it's gonna go right off the page and up. And now I can color this all in. Adding more yellow to my green, or get a little brighter. See how I'm following the topography of the cliff with my brush, just like my brush is going up and down the cliff, and that gives my cliff a nice little bit of form. There we go, it's all colored in. Let's take a little bit more blue and yellow and put in some little lines here to indicate the little gullies, the little shadows that the sun's not getting to because it's a cliff. And it's hiding little bits of it from the sun. There we go. Here we got a cliff. Now I'm gonna take my green and I'm gonna start coloring in down here. Now all this area here is gonna be green, and this is a small brush. I'm putting it in my water, and I'm going to a big brush, which has the water on it already. And I'm gonna take yellow, and I'm gonna take blue, and I'm gonna smear this all around. More yellow. And then I'm gonna take a little bit of white. That changes the green. I'm not going all the way up to the water. I want there to be some white there. Maybe a little bit of red. A little more yellow. See how this is making all my greens different shades of green? I want that. All the way to the bottom. Yeah. Okay, and then I'm gonna take my fan brush. This isn't really part of the original painting. I just felt like doing it right this second. And I'm just gonna like add some texture like that. You can do whatever you want to do. I'm using short little marks and just helping all of my variety of greens blend together. Because these plants are far away, we can't see the individual plants. Well, I can't look at these glasses, but maybe if you were standing there, you'd be able to see the individual plants. I don't know what kind of people you are. So we're gonna, on this one, smear them all together so that it looks like there's many distant plants with some texture in there. All those greens working together. Shaking my brush like this. Now we got all that texture in there. Yay, green. Now we're ready for these plants. I'm gonna start with the stems, and then we'll add the branches. So this is where I go back to that smaller brush. And I'm gonna use a dark brown, so red and yellow. So there's my red and yellow. And then I added black. You can't even really tell that it's dark brown and not black. You could use just black if you wanted to. I'm gonna squeeze out that extra paint. There, now my brush is pretty again. And then I'm going to wipe that paint either side of my brush, see? And now my brush is pretty, but it has paint in it. And I'm going to put in, where do I want my plants? I'm not pressing down, I'm just dragging the brush across so that I get a thin line. So you can see that I'm touching it and pulling it, but I'm not pressing. There we go. That's how you make a small line. I don't like to make small lines with a round brush. This has a line in it. It makes it so easy. So there's my stems on that side. And then let's do some stems over here for the tea leaves. Oh, more brown, yellow and red into the black. I want this branch to be a little thicker and sturdier. Let's give it a little twig here. A little more black. And I'll do some smaller one here. This one's the letter Y. See the letter Y? They're actually all letter Ys. One letter Y, another letter Y, two letter Ys. I don't know why. Terrible, terrible. But really good at the same time. Yeah, okay, so there's our plants. Where they're gonna go, there's gonna be maybe some little ones at the bottom here. And I'm not gonna wash my brush, I'm just gonna start adding in some shadows. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be twisting my brush back and forth, see, like this, going back and forth, kind of making little spots near the bottom. Then I'm gonna do the same on the other side. And I'm gonna do some up here. These are the shadowy leaves. They're behind other leaves. You can't even really tell they're leaves. They're just in shadow, but a good painting has some darkness in it, as does a good life. You cannot have only light. You cannot have only dark. We live in a world of duality and contrast, which is nice for painting, but sometimes makes life pretty hard. We're seeing a lot of wildfires right now, so just pray for rain and trust that everything's gonna work out, just like in a painting. All right, so let's put in some of our, I'm having a mind blank, I can't remember what this plant is called, the one for La Hala mats. Anyways, I'm gonna do some downward brush strokes on this side. So I'm touching the canvas and pulling my brush away. So touching the canvas and pulling my brush away. And I'm just gonna do those all in a little batch together. See how they angle out on the right and on the left? It's like they come from one point up here. And we'll do another batch of those here. See, 1, 2, 3, all out from the same place. And then I'm gonna add yellow and blue to my black. And that's gonna give me dark green. I'm running low on yellow, but don't worry, there's more where that came from. I'm gonna add some of that dark green to these ones. Then I'm gonna add dark green over here. Some of it can be in like little speckles or spots. Need more yellow. mustard. That can be over here too. It looks kind of like a mess, doesn't it? Most things do, but it all comes together. You don't have to control things for them to turn out good. Actually, trying to control things usually aggravates everybody in your path, and then they don't want to be around you. I wouldn't know anything about that. And then let's do some bright greens for those tea leaves. And those are like little rabbit ears. So this one I have a lot of paint in my brush. I'm not trying to like make my brush pretty on this one. I'm just gonna put my brush down, pull it in. And it all comes from one center point. I'm gonna add some extra bright yellow to make it pop. So I'm gonna decide here's a cluster of leaves, and then I'm gonna do a bunch of little rainbows to converge on that little point. There we go. Let's add some white to my green. Do that a little more over here. There we go. Put some up here. So I'm just layering greens. If I start with dark green and then go to light green, now I have depth in my plants, but it's still the same brush stroke for each. There we go. And let's do some more yellow and blue. Look at that. And we're gonna put in some of these. Some of these. Some of this. And then we're gonna do the same thing over here. Yellow and blue. Maybe a little black. If you didn't like something in your background, put a leaf on top of it. It worked for God in the Garden of Eden, and it is still working for me today. If I don't like something, I leaf it. Put some white highlights there to pop that forward. Now I'm going to revert to my random leaf shapes, which is basically just controlled chaos. Now I'm going to make some real green. I'm going to make some little rows of these little brush marks. And then I'll do another set parallel. There we go. And now we've taken a little trip to Waimanu, my favorite place to go hiking. Love you, Hawaii. Thank you for painting with me. Wait, no, I forgot something. There's a small river down here. Let's do it real quick. So, same brush, blue and white. Can't believe I almost forgot. You should have said something. And I'm just gonna make a little zigzag down there, add a little bit more white. And there's my little river. All right, there's Waimanu. Man, it's been a long time. We've been there. If I forget in the river, you have to cross that river before you get to your campsite. So you just did like a 9-mile hike and then you're like, I'm so ready to sit down, but now you have to cross a river. The last moment before you get to your campsite is the moment when everything could get wet and ruin everything. But we're painting, so we don't have to worry about that. Thank you for painting with me. Have a wonderful day. Aloha.